Chapter 2, Lesson 7 is percent of a number. Here, okay, we want to know what expression can be used to find the total discount. Okay, and remember, in math, of means multiply. So here, we want to think, well, you're out shopping and you see this radio is $42, but it's on sale for 30% off. What question are you going to ask yourself to figure out how much money is going to get taken off of the price? So you're going to ask yourself, what is 30% of 42? And then you're going to start calculating stuff in your head. Okay? So let's write that down. So that's the question that you're going to ask yourself. So here, this is the part right here that is going to give you the expression that's going to tell you what the total discount is going to be. So 30% of 42. Remember, we just said right here, it's a little note here, that of in math means multiply, right? What did I tell you the other day about the 30% when you put it into the expression or an equation? So here we need to change this to a decimal. So we're going to move this decimal that's at the end, and we're going to move it 2 places to the left, and then we're going to take away that percent sign. So here we've got 0.30 or 0.3, and of means multiply, so we're going to multiply that times 42. So we have 3 times 42 is 126. Now, how many numbers go behind the decimal? 1 goes behind the decimal. So that's going to be a decimal right here. So how much money is 12.6? $12.60. $12.60. Be careful with that. Now we're going to find the percent of a number. Okay, find the percent of a number. You can use fractions and decimals to find the percent of a number. To find the percent of a number, okay, in the warm-up we changed to a decimal. Here, to find the percent of a number, we're going to write the percent now as a fraction with a denominator of 100, and then we're going to multiply the fraction by that number. Make sure you write that down. So example 1 says, refer to the circle graph. It says, suppose that there are 300 students at York Middle School. Find the number of students that have cheese as a snack. So here, how many have cheese as a snack? 15%. So we want to ask ourselves, what is 15% of 300 students? Everybody with me on that? Okay? So up here it tells us that we want to write that percent as a fraction. So 15% we can write as 15 over 100. Okay? So we write 15 over 100, and then we can of course simplify that by dividing by 5. Oops. And we get 3 over 20. Okay? Now we're going to take that 3/20ths, and you're going to multiply times 300. Is everybody with me on that? So you can put this 300 over 1. You can simplify before you multiply, and then you end up with 45 students. So you can also write the percent as a decimal. So here we're going to change this percent to a decimal by moving the decimal 2 places to the left, and we end up with 0.15. That 0.15 is going to get multiplied, because of means multiply in math, times 300. And that will give us the same thing. Is everybody clear? So we're going to use the same circle graph as we did in the examples, and we want to find the number of students at York Middle School that have chips as a snack. Okay, so how many have chips as a snack? 18%. So we're going to write that 18% as a fraction. Okay, so 18% as a fraction is 18 over 100. Good. Now we're going to multiply that times the total number of students, which was 300 students. Okay? And of course, we can put this over 1 if you'd like. All right? And now, before we multiply, we can simplify. So 100 divided by 100 is 1. And 300 divided by 100 is 3. So when we multiply 18 times 3, what do we get? 54. So that's going to be 54 over 1 times 1 over 1, which is just 54. 54 what? Students. Very good. So don't forget, when you're dealing with word problems, you need to make sure that you label your answer. Okay, so here 54 students have chips as snacks. So now we're going to do the same thing with percents that are greater than 100% and less than 1%. Now here you can either choose to write your percent as a fraction or as a decimal based on the problem, okay? So for example 2, it says find 145% of 320. So we want to write, before we go over this example, if I have 145% of 320, is my final answer going to be above, greater than 320, or is it going to be less than 320? It's going to be greater than 320, because how much is 100% of 320? 320. So if I have 145% of 320, does that make sense? That means that we're going to have more than 320. You got that? So here we are going to write for 145% as a fraction. So that's 145 over 100. Now that can be simplified to 29/20ths, and that 29/20ths is 145%. That's what we're going to multiply times the whole thing, which is 320. So again, we have 29/20ths times 320. We can simplify before we multiply. And so that's 29 times 16 in the numerator and 1 times 1 in the denominator. So we end up with 464, which is greater than 320. All right, so for example 3, write this down. We want to find 220% of 65. So once again, we're going to write the 220% as a fraction. So 220% is 220 over 100. And then we can simplify that. Let's see. We can take the zeros out, so that's dividing by 10, right? And then I can divide 22 and 10 by 2. Very good. So we get 11 over 5. Very good. So we're going to take that 11/5 and we're going to multiply that times 65. And again, if you want to put that over 1, you can. And now we can simplify before we multiply, right? So 5 divided by 5 is 1. And 65 divided by 5 is 13. So now we're going to multiply 11 times 13 for the numerator and 1 times 1 for the denominator. So we get 143. So 220% of 65 is 143. Example 4, you can write this as a decimal. So here, okay, when you have a percent that has a decimal in it, that's when I would choose to change it to a decimal rather than a fraction. Okay, so here we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the left and then take away the percent sign, which gives us 0.0025. So that is the number that you're going to multiply times 58, which gives us 0.145. So 25/100ths of a percent of 58 is 145 thousandths. So let's do these got it problems. Here, let's do the first one as a fraction, okay? So we have 128% of 550. Is that going to be more than 550 or less? That's going to be more. Very good. So let's go ahead and write the 128% as a fraction. So 128 over 100. And the of course, means multiply. And we're going to multiply that times 550. And again, you can put that over 1 if you'd like. And now we can simplify before we multiply. Let's start with dividing by 10, right? Can I take away a 0 here and take away a 0 there? Yeah, so there I divided by 10. Now I have 10 and 55. What can I divide into both of those? 5. So this is going to be 2 over here, and this is going to be 11 over there. 55 divided by 5 is 11. Now, do you notice something else that I can simplify? I can simplify 128 and 2 by dividing by 2 again. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 128 divided by 2 is 64. When we multiply straight across, 64 times 11 is 704, and 1 times 1 is 1, so this is going to be 704 over 1, which is just 704. All right, so here we want to find 3/10% of 200. Now this one I want to write as a decimal. Very good. So I'm going to take that decimal right here, and I'm going to move that 2 places to the left, and I'm going to add a 0 here, and of course I need to take away my percent sign. Okay? So that's going to be 0.003 of means times 200. So now when I multiply 3/thousandths times 200, can I just multiply the 3 and the 200? Yeah. So that's going to be 600, right? And how many numbers do I have behind the decimal in the problem? 3. So I need to have 3 numbers behind the decimal in the answer. So this is going to be equal to 0.600. But do I need those trailing zeros?
Nope.
No. So we're going to cross those out. So your final answer then will be 0.6. So 6/10 is your final answer. So here, 5.1 is your final answer. So here we're going to change the 85/100ths% to a decimal. Move the decimal 2 places to the left, and you get 85/10,000ths. Now you're going to multiply that 85 times the 600. That's going to give us 51,000. So now 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers behind the decimal. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers behind the decimal in the answer. So that's going to give us 5.1000, and of course we don't need those trailing zeros, and we end up with 5.1. So example 5 says, in a recent state Special Olympics meet, Franklin County sent a team of 70 players. Okay, 20% of the team competed in soccer. How many athletes competed in soccer? So we want to know what is 20% of 70. So we're going to change that 20% to a decimal. You're just going to move the decimal 2 places to the left, or you could change it to a fraction, right? And then you're going to multiply the 2/10 times 70. So you get 14 team members who are soccer players. Okay? For the last example, okay, in the same meet, 15% of the team from Delaware County competed in tennis. If there were 20 members on the team, we want to know how many competed in tennis. So here, since this example was in as a decimal, I'm going to write this one as a fraction. Okay? So here, we're going to write the 15% as 15 over 100. Very good. 15 over 100. And then we're going to multiply times the whole team, right? So that's times 20. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this over 1, just so that you see that it's just a fraction times a fraction. So now we're going to simplify before we multiply. So 20 divided by 20 is 1. And 100 divided by 20 is 5. And oh, can I simplify some more? Yes, I can. So here, the 5 and the 15, I can simplify some more, right? So 5 divided by 5 is 1. And 15 divided by 5 is 3. So now, when I multiply straight across, 3 times 1 is 3. And 1 times 1 is 1. So that just gives me how many team members played tennis. Very good. 3 team members played tennis.